Good afternoon. Getting right down to business here. We're doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after the Guy Benson Show at 3 and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. Motec on Money, live on the air on 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com. And, of course, the on-demand Motec on Money podcast, kbc.com, Apple, iTunes, all your favorite podcast platforms. Stocks pulling back today. Gold and silver rallying to record highs. Bitcoin also had a good day, rallying above 97,000. Tech stocks did pull back today. NVIDIA leading the drop, and other chip companies dragged the NASDAQ lower. In fact, had its worst day in about a month. Concerns about high valuations and additional regulation weighing on the chip sector. The Trump administration announced NVIDIA must meet new security requirements before sending the H200 artificial intelligence chips to China. Also, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis repeated plans for consumer protection rules on AI. Broadcom and ARM Holdings moving lower today. NVIDIA down about 1.5%, by the way. The NASDAQ came in for a closing loss of 238 points, settling at 23,471. The Dow pulling back 42 points at 49,149. And the S&P 500 down 37 at 6,927. Both the Dow and the S&P 500 started the new week at record highs. Bank stocks also moving lower today on the latest earnings news. We did hear from Wells Fargo today. That stock moved down about 4.5% after Wells Fargo posted disappointing net income per share readings. Also, Bank of America stock pulling back, even after consumer spending led to a 12% rise in quarterly profit there. Citibank also pulling back after that company's quarterly profit was hit by a $1.2 billion loss from the announced sale of its Russia operations. President Trump's proposed 10% cap on credit card interest rates also weighing on the banks and credit card companies. Gold and silver hitting record highs today. We see gold right now hovering above 4,600 at 4,615. Silver at $91.99 an ounce here at the moment. Yep, you heard me. Above $90, in fact, above $91 an ounce, almost $92 an ounce here. President Trump's most sweeping tariffs facing a landmark test of presidential powers as the U.S. Supreme Court is set to rule on the implications and legality of the president's tariffs. No ruling today. The High Court's first two chances to come out with a verdict this year. The latest today have come and gone now, so no ruling today. We'll talk about that and the possibilities. When the ruling does finally come out, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it with our legal eagle, Royal Oaks, live later this hour. Auto company stocks in focus after President Trump visited a Ford plant yesterday, and a Ford employee and UAW member has been suspended after a verbal exchange with President Trump during the president's visit. We'll talk more about that. He visited the F-150 pickup plant ahead of a big speech. We'll talk about that news coming out of the presidential visit at Ford. Lauren Fix will be joining us, co-host of the Drive Car Show syndicated radio program, and she's also the founder of Car Coach Reports. Iran and Venezuela, of course, very much in focus. And joining us live now, the one and only Steve Forbes, chairman and editor of Forbes Media, which includes Forbes magazine, co-author of many books, co-author of Inflation, What It Is, Why It Is Bad, and How to Fix It. Steve Forbes, thank you very much for coming to the line. Happy New Year and good afternoon.
Happy New Year and good afternoon to you. I guess you've got some football ahead of you this weekend.
I know you track it better than I do, so we'll get an update from you on that a little bit later. And in the meantime, we've got the year off to a flying start here. This is our first conversation here in 26 with Iran very much in focus. Give us your view of what's happening there, first of all.
The president said today that he says he was told the executions have stopped. Therefore, he hinted that the military option is off the table. I hope that's just a way of lulling the mullahs and buying time. When the president of the United States tells the people in a country under suppression like Iran that go out and try to overthrow the regime, and the help is on the way. Thousands have already died there. And to pull back now would be a huge blow to the credibility of the United States. So we'll have to see how this plays out. But he's got to follow through in terms of getting up the Starlink again, taking out and if he has to take military action, the focus should be on the Republican Guard That's sort of the Praetorian Guard of the Mullah regime, and not the Iranian military itself. They're not happy with this regime. Go after the bad guys, and then I think the protesters can overthrow the government. But the mullahs are going to continue killing people. They may not do it publicly or threaten hangings. They'll just go shoot them in the prison yards, arrest them, and that's that. So he started on this course. He's got to follow through, and he's got to make sure this regime doesn't survive. They've got the son of the Shah, who can head up in an interim constitutional government till they can get a new government in there. And Iran, the Persians are a great, by history, great commercial people. And in a proper environment, that country could be a force of positive growth for the region and for the world. But you got to get rid of these terrorist regime, and the sooner the better.
On the Live with Steve Forbes, I was at the what's known as Little Tehran on Westwood Boulevard today, and I saw the posters up which said "Make Iran Great Again." Pictures of Reza Pahlavi, the son of the Shah of Iran, MIGA, they're calling it, "Make Iran Great Again." And biggest, of course, news probably since the revolution in 1979. How do you think this is going to play out? Do you think the son of the Shah will be back in power there?
I think he will for an interim government. He's the people realize that whatever the flaws of his father, it was nothing like what followed. And he's got credibility. He's worked with dissident groups over the years. And so he could see a transition to a new government. He's got the authority and credibility to do it. We have to back him up. But the key thing is to get this regime out. And this regime will do whatever it thinks it has to do to stay in power. So the gauntlet is down. And now they have to go and I hope we're working with elements in the Iranian military, not the Republican Guard, but the military, to say back up a transition government, and the Iran can flourish again. What really precipitated this was the absolute collapse of the currency, because when Iran made it very clear, the mullahs a few months ago, that they're going to continue to spend money on nuclear weapons, on financing terror around the world, and then a major bank failed, the currency absolutely collapsed to zero. There are no transactions, but on paper anyway, or on ellipses, it's now $1 to $1.5 million reals. In other words, people have abandoned the currency, and that's what brought on the crisis. And now we have to make sure we get a decent regime back again. We don't have to do it. The Iranians are quite capable of doing it by themselves. We just have to work to make sure these bad guys are out.
On the Live with Steve Forbes.
Guys are.
That's right. On the Live with Steve Forbes, and certainly you wrote the book on inflation. It looks like they're going to have to read that one in Iran as well now, with inflation absolutely running away. And in the meantime, gold hitting record highs, silver close to $100 an ounce. Give us your reaction to that big news, and obviously the collapse of the Iranian currency very likely is a factor in all that.
It is indeed. And the gold going, first let's take gold, going over $4,600 an ounce. Part of that is about uncertainty, what's happening around the world, but also the dollar is weak. Other currencies are weak, and that's not a good sign for future monetary inflation. The Federal Reserve never really pays much attention to the value of the dollar the way they should. They think prosperity causes inflation, and so whoever gets to be the next Fed head in the next few months is going to have to make it clear we want a strong and stable dollar. Otherwise, we're going to get a repeat of what we had 20 years ago when President George W. Bush or his team indicated they wanted a slightly weaker dollar, and that set off a chain of events that led to the crisis, the economic crisis of 2008, 2009. So I hope we don't make that mistake again. Now, silver is a little different. It's been, as you know, depressed for year after year, going nowhere. But there's now apparently a shortage of physical silver. Silver is used more and more for industrial purposes, especially batteries in this high-tech age. hyper high tech age, you might say, and China's banned the export of silver. China used to be on a silver standard over 100 years ago, but trying to get physical silver is tough, which is one reason why you're seeing this huge surge in the price of silver.
We're going to be probably playing Burl Ives again probably for the rest of the year. Silver and gold, not just over the holidays, but that Burl Ives trade, as they call it, over the holiday season continues here with gold and silver hitting record highs. Palladium and platinum also hitting certainly highs we haven't seen in years, if not at or near all-time highs as well. And we're also watching the situation in Venezuela. We haven't talked since that situation came about. Senate Republicans today voting to dismiss a war powers resolution that would have limited the president's ability to conduct further attacks on Venezuela. Give us your view of what's happening with Venezuela.
Well, first, let's once again pat our military on the back for an extraordinarily complex and successful operation. You compare that to when we removed Noriega, the dictator of Panama, who was a big drug dealer over 40 years ago. That operation, we suffered over 300 casualties, including 23 dead. So what they did here was astonishing, especially as Maduro and his cronies and his Cuban protectors knew something was likely to happen. And yet our military was able to overcome that. And we had some of our people wounded, but thankfully no casualties. Now, the sad thing is, it doesn't look like the follow-through has been as crisp and well thought out as the military operation, which should be done now instead of trying to browbeat U.S. oil companies to go back in. If they see an opportunity in the rule of law and the stable government, they will go back in, as will other investors. The key thing is to get elections going. Machado, she won the Nobel Prize. If you have elections today, I think she would win those elections. But let's have a quick transition to a legitimate government in Venezuela, and then they can start to resurrect the economy, and especially the shattered oil industry. But we shouldn't get too involved in that. That just is going to lead to trouble. And right now, it's a shock that there's 1,000 political prisoners haven't been released yet. The bad guys are still in charge. We know who they are, and that's not a good situation. So the quicker we get a forceful transition to a legitimate government with elections, they had one, as you know, in the summer of 1994. And Maduro was overwhelmingly rejected by a 2-to-1 margin, but he just ignored the results and announced a very different result. And so let's have another election and get a government up and running and start to rebuild, reconstruct the shattered Venezuelan economy. And by the way, one of the things they should do, Frank, is dollarize the economy, as Ecuador and El Salvador have done. Use the U.S. currency as the official currency, so they don't have to worry about hyperinflation and get about doing positive commercial activities.
On the Live with Steve Forbes, it was just last Friday that President Trump met with the oil company executives at the White House. The price of oil pulled back today on the latest developments in Iran, and the president's comments today, oil down $1.35, just above $60 a barrel here now. What about the price of oil, which of course impacts inflation in a big way, and your reaction to the latest inflation number we just got this week?
Well, the inflation number had some disappointing elements to it, and but I think those are things that have happened in the past. And what people still notice is that even though there's been some easing on the mortgage rates, some things in the grocery store, like eggs and dairy products, have gone down. Other things have not gone down. And so I wish the president would not go around saying everything, inflation's been conquered and everything is great, but simply say, we've got the policies in place that are bringing about change. And we think by summer, you're going to notice a very real positive change, so that reality catches up, where you might say perception catches up to what we hope is a robust reality in spring and this summer. And one of the things I hope the President Trump will do, is a call for another, what they call in Congress, I hate these hideous names, a reconciliation bill to get further tax cuts on personal incomes and on businesses and on capital gains.
All right, we're waiting at a ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court, which did not come today. As it turns out, we were all geared up for it here, a ruling on whether the president's tariffs are, in fact, legal. No indication of when we might get that ruling now, unless you have some updated information for us. But what do you think is going to happen?
No, I have no inside track with the Supreme Court or what the justices are doing when they're behind closed doors. But a ruling needs to come as quick as possible because decisions await on that ruling. I think they're going to rule that the tariffs put in by executive order are unconstitutional. But I also think they're probably trying to figure out a way in which, in essence, they would say that the revenues already collected won't have to be refunded. It was done in good faith, and so what I think that way you don't have to worry about lawsuits and up doing this and doing that. Just say henceforward, tariffs that the president would like have to go through Congress. Tariff is a tax, and we have other tariffs in place through established legal procedures on dumping and things like that. So I think actually after initial turmoil, Frank, we're going to see the markets are going to welcome it in the sense that this way we have real stability. That when Congress passes a tariff, you know what the rules of the road are. Instead of each day, you don't know what's going to come down the pike.
All right, a lot of people are into this poly market stuff now and event betting and placing wagers and so forth. So we got the Rams playing the Bears this weekend. Do you like the Rams or the Bears?
Well, if since we're in LA, I'll say the Rams. If we were in Chicago, I'd say the Bears. Since my team's got eliminated the first game of the season, the Jets and the Giants. But the Rams have got a very good team. They were almost upended, as you know, in that first game over the weekend. Remarkable weekend for football. I'm a baseball guy, not a football guy, but for the first time, I watched every single football game this weekend. Remarkable what happened. Unprecedented, historic, especially in the fourth quarters of some of these games. So the Bears have a tendency, even when they're far behind, they've done it half a dozen times during the season, and they did it again this weekend, where they're way behind, and then in the fourth quarter, they miraculously pull it out. So if you're going to watch the Rams-Bear games, don't leave until the final game is finally over, because until it's over, it ain't over. There have been too many surprises. So even in the last 2 seconds, some of these games have been decided. So it should be an excellent game.
Terrific. Steve Forbes, thank you very much for taking the call in the first of what I hope will be many conversations here in the new year. Thank you very, very much, Steve Forbes, Chairman, Editor-in-Chief of Forbes Media, which includes Forbes Magazine. Thank you very much for joining us live this afternoon.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Happy New Year again. Thank you.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret. With Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
My name is David Goss. I am joined by 2 icons of the game, Megan Klingenberg and Ale Bedoya.
It's just been so fun
being a part of this community that we are building.
Hopefully we'll be not just a niche sport here in our country, but also even more respected across the globe.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We are excited to cover it all here at the U.S. Soccer Podcast. It is going to be a big year. Kling, red card, or play on?
A play on.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Happy New Year. Gold hitting record highs again today, above 4,600 an ounce. We're looking at around 4,615 here at the moment. It's actually down $20 here at the moment. Silver at 91 and change, just shy of $92 an ounce for silver, as both silver and gold have been hitting record highs every single day this week. Platinum also hitting record highs recently. Right now we're at $2,376 on platinum, pulling back about $10 here now. And palladium pulling back about $48, but still up there at $1,854 an ounce. Have you noticed they've taken their time taking down the holiday decorations this year? We've been getting an earlier and earlier start to the holiday season. Now it looks like the holiday season is being extended on the other end. We did get some new readings today on retail sales, by the way. Let's bring up the latest on that. The retail sales numbers coming in better than analysts had expected. The Dow pulling back 42 points after starting the week at a record high, pulling back for the past couple of days, down 42 points at 49,149. The S&P 500 down 37 at 6927. And the NASDAQ down 238 points at 23,471 as the tech names, including NVIDIA, took a hit today. On the flip side, we see the cryptos having a strong day. Bitcoin right now pulling back about 500 after a big rally today to up around 97.5. We're at just above 97,000 here at the moment on Bitcoin. Ethereum, ETH as it's known, at 3,355, and Doge at the moment at 14 cents. Otaka Money continues, 790 KABC. A bit of a curveball from the U.S. Supreme Court today. The High Court was expected to issue a ruling today on several major cases that are pending. The court indicated on its website recently that it could release decisions in argued cases when the justices take the bench during a scheduled sitting today. The court does not normally announce in advance what cases will be decided. The justices issued, one ruling recently in a criminal case, but nothing today, as it turns out. During arguments in the tariffs case heard by the High Court back on November 5th, conservative and liberal justices appeared to cast doubt on the legality of the president's tariffs, which President Trump imposed by invoking a 1977 law meant for use during national emergencies. President Trump this week said that it would be bad if the High Court ruled against those tariffs. We were standing by for some kind of a ruling, but here it is, 4:37 Pacific time, and no ruling. So it looks like no ruling today. Let's bring in the legal eagle on all this, and that is Royal Oaks Esquire, legal analyst and co-host of the Too Many Lawyers podcast. Royal Oaks, thank you very much for coming to the line here on what was supposed to be the big day here today.
Yeah, it sure was. Before we begin, though, I got to congratulate you. You look terrific on the red carpet at the Golden Globes the other night, Frank Motek. I noticed on social media a lot of questions or comments. I think people like Ariana Grande were saying, hey, did you see? I had my picture taken with Frank Motek at the Golden Globes. So that was pretty cool.
Don't forget Snoop Dogg and Kevin O'Leary, and the list goes on. Oh, yeah. No, it was a lot of business people there. A lot of business people. It was great.
So you covered it great. I mean, you teed up this tariff issue. The Supreme Court usually at 7 a.m. our time, 10 a.m. Washington, that's the time they generally issue decisions. And so when that didn't happen this morning, we thought it was probably off. You never know. I mean, they could do it any time of the day or not, but that's the betting. So, and they say ahead of time it'll be on a Monday or a Thursday. And the reason the timing is so issue is, inquiring minds want to know, because as you say, even the conservative justices, some of them in that oral argument in November, they were saying things like, really, it's Congress under the Constitution gets to impose tariffs. And yes, there's a statute that says if there's an economic emergency, then the president can step in and impose some tariffs. So it really was there an economic emergency? So it doesn't really look good for Donald Trump. So, Frank, the betting is that the court fairly soon, probably next week sometime, will issue a decision saying, the president overstepped his bounds. But here's a big key question. Are they going to say, and by the way, this applies to the past retroactively, meaning all of the people around the world who paid extra money because of tariffs, they're going to just go for refunds. They're going to file lawsuits, and the international courts and the American courts could get really ugly. The other option the court has, is to say, okay, Trump was wrong, but it's forward-looking only. No past actions for refunds. And I have to say, if I was going to go to Vegas and bet on this, I'd say that's the likely outcome, because it would be just a nightmare of requests for refunds. It would have litigation drag on into the courts for decades.
On the live with our legal eagle, Royal Oaks, and this is obviously going to be very important. The case being watched very, very closely for a number of reasons, especially by Costco, which has brought a lawsuit against the government in the hope of securing a refund on import duties. If the court does indeed reject President Trump's authority to impose tariffs, that would potentially be one of the impacts, right? And President Trump has gone on record saying that, let me see if I can quote him directly here. He said on Monday, losing the ability to tariff other countries would be a terrible blow, in his words, to the U.S. And earlier this week, he went even further to say that it would be especially bad. He said, if the Supreme Court rules against the United States of America on this national security bonanza, we're screwed, to quote the president on his social media site. So a lot riding on this, Royal Oaks. What about on the refund issue? What are your thoughts about how this might go?
Yeah, as I say, I think that it's unlikely the court is going to say, "Oh yeah, everybody can go back and get the refunds." And you recited it properly there. What a roller coaster ride we had, because when Trump came out with these tariffs, Liberation Day back, April last year, everybody was freaking out and saying, "Oh, this is terrible. The economies are going to start collapsing, and everybody's going to gang up on us." And then it seemed like it wasn't so bad. I mean, he does what he does. It's the art of the deal. He puts some stuff off. He rescinded a few, starts negotiating. Let's make a deal. And then suddenly, we roll into the second half of 2025, as you reported every weekday on your show. And the world didn't come to an end because of his tariffs. So, he may lose, but I really doubt that the court is going to really slam him. The one thing that makes you think, well, maybe he won't lose is, he lost in the lower courts, the Court of International Trade. Then when they went up to the Federal Circuit Appeals Court, he lost again. Usually, when the Supreme Court is asked by a loser, hey, would you take this up? The Supreme Court is very busy, and they say, well, we're too busy. The right thing happened in the lower courts, so we're denying certiorari. Well, they granted the writ. They agreed to take it up in September. So that's something that might make the Trump administration feel optimistic.
Very interesting. And we also heard from Treasury Secretary Besson on this. He said that if the high court rules against the president's tariffs, which he still views as unlikely, the U.S. Treasury has more than enough funds to cover the cost of any refunds. But the Treasury Secretary also said he thinks businesses will not be passing those refunds back to consumers. That's another aspect in all of this. Looks like the tariffs have not really increased inflation based on the readings we've been getting lately. But this is certainly still a wild card that's hanging out there. Any sign? Do you have any inside information on when we might get a ruling on this?
Yeah, I would bet that if it doesn't happen in the next few days, it'll happen next week, because the court knows. Inquiring minds want to know. Everybody is really hanging on their decision. And, it's economic uncertainty is no fun. People want to know whether these things are legal or not, whether they can go for refunds or not. So I think the court's under some pressure to make a quick decision. And, as you say, they had the oral argument November 5. So that's, 2.5 months they've had sitting on it. So, maybe they'll fire up ChatGPT and crank out a draft decision.
Well, that is available now, right? What about AI in the legal world? Famously, there was that case here in California where an attorney used AI and cited cases that were completely bogus, right? Have there been any other fun examples of the use of AI in the legal world recently?
Yeah, a whole bunch of them. A lot of lawyers were embarrassed in courts across the country over the last year or two. But the weird thing that's happening, and you may have noticed this article, it may have been in the New York Times recently, Frank, the script has been flipped, because judges are now saying, you know what, we can get a decision, a tentative decision on a big case pending before us so much faster and beautifully accurate by asking AI to draft it. And it comes up with work that's better than the human clerks. So the judges are going from screaming at lawyers for submitting briefs with hallucinated cases. There was no Smith versus Jones case in 1958, and yet you quoted it and told me that it had certain language on a certain page, and it was all made up because, AI dropped LSD or something. Well, now the judges are saying, this is pretty cool. We're going to use it in our chambers.
See it tonight, read about it tomorrow, but hear it now on Motec on Money, live on the air with Royal Oaks, Esquire, our legal eagle here, host of the Too Many Lawyers podcast, also member of the RTNA Board of Directors. You do it all, Royal, and do it so well. Thank you very, very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
Appreciate it, Frank.
Thank you very much.
Get ready for The Rush with Max Crosby.
It's time.
Your all-access pass into the heart of the NFL.
This is the National Football League, and they don't play around. You got to be smart.
All-pro defensive end Max Crosby takes you beyond the field with exclusive insights.
I could say this because I've played them.
This is The Rush.
You guys already know what time it is. It was fire, and we'll be right back on the pod, and we'll be talking about it next week.
The Rush with Max Crosby. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Motaca Money continues. 790 KABC. Ford taking the spotlight this week. President Trump visited the Ford Motor Dearborn truck plant in Michigan, where they make the F-150 pickup truck, one of the, if not the most popular vehicle in the United States. President Trump visiting the factory there, where a Ford employee and UAW member has now been suspended after a verbal exchange with the president during the president's visit. You might have seen that on video. That's getting a lot of attention. But in the meantime, Ford has issued a $20 billion EV pivot. According to Bill Ford, the head of Ford, they finally recognized what reality was in the auto business and wrote down $20 billion as they pivot away from electric vehicles, something that our go-to car expert, Lauren Fix, has been talking about for quite some time. And Lauren Fix is on the air live with us here now, the co-host of the Drive Car Show syndicated radio program. She's also the founder of Car Coach Reports. Happy New Year, Lauren Fix.
Happy New Year. Yeah, this is a very interesting situation with Ford finally admitting that, I think we made a mistake. But I think that's interesting with all brands. They're just not pushing back against the government when they tell them this is what you're going to sell to customers, even though customers don't want it, even though sales aren't there. We're going to mandate that. That'd be the same thing as you can't have Coke, but you have to drink Pepsi. People will, well, I don't want that. I want something else. And when you push consumers to do something they don't like, they always push back. And the result is a $20 billion loss for Ford Motor Company. And they're not alone, by the way. General Motors is taking a little over $7 billion loss, and they're still pushing for EVs. As Mary Barra was interviewed this week for Automotive News, she said, no, we're going to stick with the EV plan. She's not reading the tea leaves. Customers that want them should be able to buy them, but mandating anything or only offering all EV like they're doing on the Cadillac line, that's not a wise move, and certainly not a good business move. I'm surprised that the shareholders aren't pushing back.
Very interesting. On there live with our Lauren Fix, who's doing a great job. They got the Detroit Auto Show, right, coming up this week. Did you get a chance to get over there?
I didn't go to the Detroit Auto Show this year. I did get to see some of the reveals. The problem is that it used to be the Detroit Auto Show was considered the North American International Auto Show. It was fabulous for seeing all the brands and connecting consumers with the cars. Still great for that. Anytime there's an auto show, whether it be LA, Detroit, Chicago, New York, it's really great for consumers to go and see everything that's available. For the press, that's no longer the case on a global basis. So there is only one reveal today, and that was, of course, the North American Car and Truck of the Year Awards. And those were great, but in the big picture, consumers it's perfect for consumers. It's not great for media. And so today there's a bunch of people sitting around ready to go home because there's not that many new cars to show. There's a lot of dealers there. So if you were in Detroit, like in LA, you go down there to see what's available.
Not as exciting as the LA Auto Show, where you did attend. It was great seeing you here on your live with Lauren Fix. So President Trump visited the place where Ford assembles the F-150 pickup truck. Are pickup trucks gas-powered back in a big way?
Oh, absolutely. And the winner for North American Truck of the Year was the Ford Maverick Lobo Edition. So what that is a high-performance vehicle that it's more of a high-performance car. It's gasoline-powered. And I got to drive it. I had a great time. The review is posted on Car Smart's Extras of the Mavericks. It's my favorite one. And then the other direction, we had, for cars, we got the Dodge Charger. Now, in the past, when the Dodge Charger got redesigned, it was electric. People didn't buy it, and they knew that. So they offered a hybrid version, and we're expecting, from what I hear from internals, and I have talked to executives, there's going to be a Hemi. And that just proved to Tim Kuniskis, who's in charge of North America for Stellantis, which is Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, and Jeep. He said gas engines are back, and that's huge. And, of course, the winner, I should tell you, for the SUV of the year is the Hyundai Palisade, which is a fabulous vehicle. I've driven the hybrid and the gas, and I like both of them. I think they deserve to win for sure.
Very interesting. And that Dodge Charger, isn't that the one that came up during the days when Daimler and Chrysler were together? They had some of the Daimler engineers work on the Charger.
Right. In this case, that's out the door. They've now come back with much better vehicles that are more performance-oriented. Because remember, when they started bringing in Hemi engines, that's the big performance engines, great for drag racing, great for performance, great for a spirited drive if you don't do any of that. Those have always been very popular, and their TRX truck, which they did show a variant of that at the Detroit Auto Show. It's got 777 horsepower, and it's not electric. It's all gas.
And the Europeans also getting away from electric, right? Maybe you can give us an update what the thinking there is nowadays.
Yeah, actually, Honda just had a press event. It was Monday. It was virtual, of course. And they talked about some of the new product they have coming out. They've redesigned their logo, no longer a circle around the H. So the H logo is going to stand alone, be a little bit more stylized. They're going to offer electrics, but less of them, more hybrids, more gas-powered cars, which have always been so successful, from the Civic to the CR-V. And they're also going to be bringing in a small RV that you can tow behind a crossover. And this was kind of exciting because it was modular, it was light, and they have options of a shower and a toilet and a kitchen if you want it, or if you're just looking for something you want to camp in the outdoors. So this is a departure for Honda, but remember, they do a lot of outdoor type items, everything from a generator to a four-wheeler to a motorcycle. They have all that available too.
Very interesting. You mentioned GM, and we did see that interview with the GM CEO, Mary Barra, said the EVs are the end game. Are they still thinking that, or what's really going on at GM and Cadillac especially?
I think they're crazy, and I'll be honest, and I would tell her that if I was sitting across from her. I think she's crazy. I mean, having an electric vehicle available to you, especially in the state of California, may make sense for you. It might not. But if you look at the numbers of what's happened, especially since the EV mandate ended, you're looking at about 4% of sales. That's not a lot for electric vehicles. That's the interest from consumers. Consumers want hybrids. We have had some problems with Stellantis' plug-in hybrids. They're no longer available. There's a stop sale on them. And if you have what they call a 4xe, make sure to contact your local dealer. There's a stop sale because there's fires, and they're also having filtration problems. These are pretty serious. They could leave you stuck on the side of the road or worse. So make sure to contact your dealer. So no more 4xe. So the plug-in hybrid for Stellantis is gone. It's not even on their website, and there was no explanation. I put a story about that on my Car Coach Reports channel. That Jeep is in trouble. You can't just take things away from consumers and not explain it.
Isn't that something? So all these big plants shifting away from EVs altogether. That's got to be an amazing thing to see.
Well, I kind of called that. I've been saying this for 20 years, and I took a lot of heat from brands. I took a lot of heat from manufacturers and some senior level executives that expressed their frustration with me. But I said, you have to look at what the consumer wants. You build what customers want, you'll make money. You build what they don't want, and you'll take a loss. And now we're seeing this in Europe also. They're starting to make the shift where they were going to be all EV by 2030. Well, all the brands push back and said, we're going to go out of business. You're not going to have jobs. This impacts an economy, especially in countries like Germany, where more than 60% of their people work in the auto industry. And if they don't have a job, you're going to have a big problem. So then they've totally pulled back on that. They're now saying, well, maybe 2040. This is all World Economic Forum thing. So we'll see what they have to say when in the next couple of weeks when they have their event. But my guess is you're going to see that consumers will always push back when they are forced to buy something they really don't want.
All right, with affordability, the big word nowadays, we got about 30 seconds here, Lauren Fix. What are the good deals nowadays?
A lot of affordable product coming out. The cheapest product you can get right now is a Nissan Sentra. It's just a little over $20,000, but Honda told us on Monday they're going to start bringing in vehicles that are under $20,000, that are more entry level, that are more what consumers want, that we lost during the virus. And so it's nice to see some reasonably priced vehicles hopefully coming soon.
Lauren Fix, thank you very much. Happy New Year to you and your team. Again, thank you very much. Looking forward to many conversations here this year. Lauren Fix, the co-host of the Drive Car Show, which is a syndicated national radio show. She's also the founder of Car Coach Reports. Live with us here on Motec on Money on 790 KABC. Stocks pulling back today with the Dow down 42 at the closing bell. The S&P 500 down 37. The NASDAQ down 238. And the yield in the 10-year note at 4.13%. The volatility index Moving up 5% today. Bitcoin having a big day, up above 97,000. Gold and silver at record highs. Gold above 4,600. Silver just shy of 92 an ounce. Stay tuned now for the UCLA Penn State game here on 790 KABC.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
My name is David Goss, and I'm joined by my co-host Megan Klinenberg.
Everything up until this point has been an outside look at the World Cup, and now we're giving people an inside look. It is just total pressure cooker.
Watching flags come out of little plastic balls is like the epitome of everything that I love. And the World Cup is everything. It's why I became a soccer fan.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.